So for those of you who are joining us, just wanted to say hello again. My name is Jeff Zappelli, General Manager for Wines. I'm with our Director of Winemaking, Megan Gunderson. We're drinking our 2017 Rosellas, and all of these wines are available on our website. There are not a lot of them left. Rosellas is actually at the end of the vintage, and the next wine we're going to talk about is usually available only for our wine club members. But, you know, of course, I think you brought the next wine, right, Megan?
I did. Are you ready?
Well, you know me, I always usually mess something up. So you might have to get the bottle. That'd be terrific.
All right, if you don't get this right, Jeff, you're fired. Okay, ready? One,
Yes.
2, 3. It's coming your way.
All right, I got it. I got it. Got it. There is this one. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And what did I just pass you?
So that's the 2018 Rita's Crown Pinot Noir from the Santa Rita Hills. And I think this is a pretty good wine, actually. I'm surprised I even have this available. All right, I'm going to pass it back to you so you can have it. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here you go.
It's coming in the other side. All right, so
magic.
So Rita's Crown Vineyard we've been working with for a decade now. It's been 10 years, and 2010 was the first vintage. It's still one of my favorite wines. I had it maybe about a year ago, and it's still drinking beautifully. This is a wine that has a lot of aging potential. It's a very high elevation site, as you guys can see behind Jeff there. That's actually Jeff walking through the vineyard. We were down at Rita's Crown last summer, and it's really like you go to that vineyard and you don't need to go to the gym that afternoon. It's really high elevation, very steep slopes. The vines really struggle. You've got these really unique soils in the Santa Rita Hills, and the Santa Rita Hills is a particularly unique AVA. It's one of the only east-west corridors in North America. So what that means is the warmer inland air creates a vacuum and pulls the fog and the sea breeze in, the winds, into an area that would otherwise be too warm for making Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir likes to be, you know, nice and cool, but not too cold. It likes to have very long days, long growing seasons. It's delicate, it's fragile, and it really thrives when it's close to the ocean, but not too close. And Rita's Crown is the perfect location, one of the most perfect locations for Pinot Noir, I think. And I just love that vineyard site.
Yeah, no, that's actually, it's one of my favorite places to get a truck stuck. And it's also,
How many times did I tell you, Jeff? See, every time we go to Santa Rita Hills, I check in with Jeff and I say, Jeff, did you rent the car? Yes, I rented the car. Okay, did you get a 4-wheel drive? Yeah, I think it's 4-wheel drive, but I think we'll be fine like with an all-wheel drive. And I'm like, no, you will get stuck. The soils there are so light and so fine that they're pillowy. And there's Jeff, see, he didn't listen to me, and his truck got stuck in the vineyard. And I think that the soils there really have an impact on the flavor of the wine. You get kind of a nougat aroma, you get a salinity and a minerality on the palate. We actually did an experiment, gosh, it must be 5 or 6 years ago now, where we brought up soil from the Rita's Crown Vineyard. I asked the vineyard manager to send me 4 buckets of soil, and he thought I was crazy. He couldn't figure out why I wanted the soil. But we fermented Pinot Noir from Russian River, which is a totally different growing region up in Sonoma County. Different expression of Pinot, usually much more red fruit, strawberry. And we put the soil from Rita's Crown Vineyard in Santa Rita Hills into this Russian River Pinot. And at the end, it was fascinating. It smelled and tasted like a Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir. That's how influential that soil is. We called it the dirt trial.
The dirt trial. I remember the dirt trial.
Dirt
that
trial.
was a wine called Pinpoint Extreme. Hey, but since we were talking about vineyard management, I think you have a guest, a special guest for us today?
I do. So I'd like to introduce our manager of vineyards and grower relations, Dominic Bianco. Dom, are you there? Can you join us?
I'm here. How you guys doing?
Good. The sun is very bright, Dom. I mean,
I'm
that's
outside.
how much of a star you are. You're like a shining star. Look at you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Better. Good.
Okay, good. When I first set this up, the sun hadn't moved to that location, and now that it's there, it got a little bright. Anyways, thanks for having me on. I would love some wine.
Oh, yes. I've got you covered, Dominic. Would you prefer 2017 Rosella's Pinot or 2018 Rita's Crown?
I will do Rita's Crown.
Okay, it's coming your way. I'm going to pour it over the top of the screen. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah.
So what's going on
Dominic,
in vineyards?
can you tell us what's going on in your world right now? What's going on in the
Yes, it's well, it's busy. So bud break, which is essentially when the vines wake up and they start growing shoots, that has already started. We had a very warm and dry end to winter and end to the winter and beginning of spring. And so things have kickstarted. We have our tractors in our vineyards right now cultivating, and we also have our crews out in our vineyards, keeping a safe distance, and they're out in our vineyards, and they've begun shoot thinning. So so a vine has a bunch of buds that grow all over it, and in the spring those buds all push, and we need to go in and manage that. So we go in and we take off all the shoots that we don't want and all the shoots that have no clusters on them.
It's all about controlling the growth and controlling the energy of the vine, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So cultivation, we have our crews working safely, and we're doing system checks, all of our irrigation systems, and then just our ranch operations in general, because as I said, the season's underway, and before we know it, it's going to get really, really busy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the most kind of fun part of this whole season, when the energy's there, when the vines are starting to spring. It's like, okay, time to go again. And I know that Megan's a control freak, so she's out there probably making sure that you guys are keeping everything in line and keeping it all together. So thanks for doing that, for going
She's
outside.
my boss, so I have to watch what I say.
We have a lot of fun working together.
Yeah, I've learned after 14 years I can't win, so I just say what I need to say and
give up, Jeff. Yep.
You're gonna ignore me anyways. Hey, so we have some questions from the audience that we're asking. And maybe both of you can talk to this, because you're in the vineyards and you're making the wine. And what's the biggest difference? So Jack asked, what's the biggest difference between the most northern Pinot that we make and the most southern Pinot that we make?
Well, I mean, I can talk from a winemaking standpoint, and then Dom can chime in on the differences in farming or growing regions. But Shea is our vineyard designate from Oregon. That's as far north as we go. And for me, Shea is a little bit earthier. You get more rose petal, a little bit more grip to the tannin from Shea, which I really, really like. And then down in Santa Rita Hills, like we just talked about, you get a lot of minerality. You get a lot of really bright red fruits. So just because of where these Pinots are grown, they're two completely different expressions of the same varietal. It's fascinating, and that's why we do 1,000 miles of Pinot Noir.
Yeah, and I just add that, up in Oregon, it's much cooler, and the growing season tends to be much shorter. So whereas down in the Santa Rita Hills, we have maybe plus or minus 6 inches of growth. Up in Oregon, they're just seeing bud break right now. So we have a protracted growing season in the Santa Rita Hills. We have lots of sunlight, and we have really warm temperatures down there, which lends to all the attributes that Megan just discussed. Up in Oregon, it's a little cooler. They have more rainfall. In fact, the Shea Vineyard doesn't have any irrigation system, whereas down in the Santa Rita Hills, we have already started irrigating. Mm-hmm. And so there's a really big shift in climate between the two.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's a lot of fun for me, especially when I get to go in the market and share these wines with our wine club members, the dinners and things like that, because you get to actually show how stylistically just that site and just that climate changes the wine. Typically, Megan, how long would you say from the time the grapes come in to the time they're bottled? Maybe about a year and a half until.
It's about 10 months, 10, 11 months.
10, 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're telling this story about the weather and about the climate and everything that happens from, about 2 years ago, usually with our members. And, as you bring them down the Pacific coast, it's more delicate as you kind of get to the base and it becomes, more fruit driven. I think it's really interesting to bring people even into our tastings, and I wish we could do that in our tasting rooms. It's a lot of fun. So I just thank you guys, because I know it's a lot of windshield time. A lot up in the air time.
We love spending like 7 hours in the car together. It's great. It's like the highlight of the year. All right, so we have like lots more questions, Jeff.
Yeah, so we're drinking Santa Rita Hills wines. What's your favorite cheese? How do you pair with this? So Sarah wants to know.
For me, I would pair with this like a Mount Tam. Like Cowgirl Creamery Mount Tam, something really creamy with a lot of body. And I think that the acidity in this wine is going to pair beautifully with that, kind of cut through the creaminess of the cheese. So that's what I like.
Dominic, I know you're
American cheese.
Velveeta.
Yeah.
The whiz.
Love it.
You're good with the whiz?
I would go with a nice blue cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So how about vintage? So we've had, this is our 10th vintage this year of Walt Pinot Noir in 2020. So I think both of you have been here for all of them. I know Megan has. I think Dominic, you're right there. What was your favorite year, and what did you like about that vintage?
Go ahead, Dominic.
Oh, they've all been so fun. I would say, gosh, 2015 was such a fantastic vintage, just across the board, growing wise, wine quality wise. Last year was also, I think in the vineyards last year was really ideal. Growing standpoint, there just wasn't really much of a Mother Nature didn't throw a curveball at us too often.
Or in 18. I think the 18 is a phenomenal vintage as well.
I think we got pushed at the end because of fires, or because of rain, but the vintages themselves were fantastic. Yeah.
And then for me, 2010 is special just because it was the first vintage of Walt's, and it was a huge learning curve, but it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, you just kind of went out there and tried to figure it out, and actually that was the year I think the Wine Spectator gave us 90 points. We came out with 8 wines, and 7 of them points or more, and the 8th we didn't actually send. So I'm gonna give you 8 for 8 just for that.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a big deep question that came in. If you didn't work in the wine business, what would we do? So I'm not going to answer that question because I don't see a life outside the wine industry. I just think that this is where I want to be.
Yeah, gosh, I think something else that I really love to do is cook. So if the hours weren't so totally terrible, I would consider, being a chef. I think that's really fun. And I think it's, you're able to express creativity in the same way. So, Dominic?
Yeah, I love agriculture and I love farming, being outside, sun on my shoulders, and the freedom that goes with it. So I would be doing a different type of ag somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do? I'll put that to you. What's your next favorite type of ag?
He wants to move to Minnesota and grow corn.
No.
He wants to be the next best corn farmer.
The next best corn farmer?
Yeah.
I'd love to grow rice in Carolina. I'd love to live in
Ooh, that would be
Charleston,
cool.
South Carolina. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we had another question about the Santa Rita Hills and food pairing. And you guys are both foodies. I like going out with both of you. So what's your favorite wine to pair with the Santa Rita Hills?
Favorite food or favorite wine?
Your favorite food to pair with the Santa Rita Hills?
So for me, there's a restaurant there that we all love to go to called the SY Kitchen. And they have these amazing dishes, and they use a lot of locally sourced ingredients. And I love having the Santa Rita Hills Pinot, at a restaurant in Santa Rita Hills with locally sourced ingredients where the chefs, they know the wine. We always have a good time. So anything from SY Kitchen is what I would pair with Rita's Crown.
Yeah, I think for me it would be something like a steak. That area down there it makes wines that deserve a big hearty meal.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be a steak or beef bourguignon or something of that nature, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I owe you guys a steak dinner at Stark's in Santa Rosa, by the way. So I haven't forgotten. I still owe it. I
Okay.
that. Something blew up. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't this. So, but I still owe you guys steak dinner.
Well, we'll put it on the calendar for when the world returns to normal. Hopefully not too far from now, and we can all go out and have a meal together again.
I do want to correct you though, Jeff. So in the last tasting you did with Catherine Hall, you talked about a restaurant in Napomo.
I did, and thank you for
and you called it Jasper's.
Jasper's.
And I have no idea what Jasper's is.
Jocko's.
But there is a place called Jocko's.
Yes.
Yeah. And fun fact, I have eaten there with Megan on several occasions. And at breakfast time, they offer a 16-ounce steak, a ribeye steak.
It's called the Spencer.
With 2 eggs and a side of beans. And I have witnessed her kill that thing several times. And put me to
all
shame.
By myself.
Put me to shame and question my masculinity. So
cheers to you, Megan.
Woohoo!
But in my defense, I think she was pregnant. And so, she had that going for her.
But yes, when I was pregnant, it was Taco Bell and Jocko's. Those are my 2 favorite stops. So.
I think both daughters were born while you were dealing with harvest too, right? Or just, yeah, Jocko's. Yes. No, thank you for correcting me. That was a huge slip on my part.
For all of you who were looking for, what did you call it? Jasper's?
Yeah.
After the last time, it doesn't exist. Look for Jocko's.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to wrap up. So we have a question that came in pretty early on. I want you to tell me what your favorite thing about working with each other is.
Whew, that's a tough one.
I'll go first. I'll take it first. I think that, the fact that we've all worked together for so long and we know each other really well, and that you guys are both so incredibly talented at what you do. I feel very fortunate to have gotten to know you both over the years, and, to have such talented people to work with on our team.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're all friends, and we communicate really well with each other, and we understand each other really well too, for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start by saying I think I can count on one hand. That's Megan saying something nice. So
and when it's going to be another 5 years before you hear something nice, Jeff. So just kidding.
No, I'll just say that I'm always impressed by how much I didn't come into this. I came into this job through restaurants. I learned about wine through a technical, more through the Guild of Somm, and so for me, it's the amount of information that I get to learn from you guys, and hosting these tastings every time I get to sit down with you and blend wine with you and visit vineyards with you. That is, I think you guys are amazing teachers. So that's why I love working with you guys. So I just wanted to thank you both for coming, or visit our audience, that we're going to do this again on Thursday. We'll be tasting our 2018 Labrisa, which is a wine that's featured in our wine club shipment. So please, if you have a chance to join our wine club and grab that wine, that's an amazing bottled wine from the Sonoma Coast. And we'll also be tasting the 2006 Corners from our estate vineyard in the Anderson Valley. That's a vineyard you can actually check out Dominic talking about on our website, and you can shop those wines on our website, and you can give us a call at the winery, and we'd love to hopefully see you guys very soon. Megan, Dominic, thank you. I owe you a steak dinner at
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having us. Good to see you guys.
Good to see
See
you.
you soon, hopefully.